been driven to visual storytelling, movies, comics, TV, stuff like that. When I was a kid, I used to make comics, but I would call them movies, and I would thread them on the dot matrix printout paper, with the
Sure.
perforated sides, and tie them together with yarn. That was my new movie. I went to art school, and art school led to film school, and film school led to animation school, where I was looking for a place to kind of synthesize that. And then coming out of college in sort of the dying days of .com, I'd been sort of a designer and a web designer and a graphic designer, and worked in print and on the web, and that led into continuing to make animated shorts with my friends. That led me into the world of motion graphics and design, and directing commercials and music videos and stuff for television. All the while still reading comics and loving comics and working on my craft kind of quietly at night. I had at some point the epiphany that if I wanted to be a writer, maybe I should stop thinking about writing, or stop writing about writing and actually write. I'd seen the Tim Burton film Ed Wood. I was incredibly inspired by that. Like, I'll just have to do better next time. Like, that's the worst movie I've ever seen. All right, well, let me tell you about Dr. Acula. Like, you have to. I had to find that courage to suck. I had to find that. You have to be embarrassed. You have to fail. You have to fail a lot. You have to learn how to draw. You have to learn a craft. You have to learn how to draw. You have to learn how to write. You have to generate bad stuff, and just keep generating, and eventually you develop the muscles you need and the sense you need to determine how to do what you want to do. When we would put out shorts or commercials or videos, or I would write like a comic short, I would always make sure that people who could hire me to write comics, people who would actually pay me to write comics, were seeing it. So I'd go to conventions and sought out editors that I admired, editors who worked on books that I loved, or other creators who made books that I loved, and sort of met them there.
Such as?
Axel Alonso, who edited pretty much every major Vertigo book in the 90s, and then went over to Marvel. He was a big one. Warren Ellis was an early advocate for me and for my work. Joe Casey was another one. I would go to shows and sort of meet creators online and be a fan, but try to think critically and try to be more than I didn't want to be a reviewer necessarily. I wanted to be a creator. You know what I mean? So I would try to just constantly, all the critical writing I did, or however ridiculous or specious it might have been at the time, all of it was pointing towards trying to get better at actually doing it myself, and reached a point where I wanted to stop talking about it and wanted to do it. And I was young enough and had a low enough overhead that I could afford to kind of starve and go hungry, and take my time. I was also very lucky that the day job I did have, I loved, and it was very creatively satisfying. So I didn't feel like a frustrated, I wasn't pent up. I was getting my creative yayas out, as it were, in my day job, and I was able to kind of pursue comics and writing at night as a advocacy hobby almost. It was something that I loved and loved doing, but only did when I had the time and the energy to do. And then when I wanted to stop making commercials and videos and stuff and wanted to start writing full time, it just kind of required a leap of faith that I could pull it off, and if not, I could always pull espresso shots at Starbucks or whatever, but you come a point where you just have to risk failure, and I've been very lucky that I didn't really have to compromise, because I had like I said, a creatively satisfying day job. I would only pursue work for hire comics gigs that I wanted to do. I said no way more than I said yes, and would pitch things that were turned down way more than they were accepted, because it was a thing that I could do only if I liked or if I wanted to, which is a gift that a lot of people don't often have, but it kept me, I think, from ever being particularly desperate. You know what I mean? ultimately, that I think that just perseverance paid off, and that people at Marvel learned to like my work, and one thing led to the next, and to the next, and to the next, and that led to Iron Man, and then suddenly you find out the director of the film likes your comics and wants to meet with you and talk about the movie, and then the second film, and then the people making the game want to talk to you about it too. It's crazy. If you were to sit down, like, you couldn't plot it out with a guidance counselor. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't sit down in a room with an adult and say A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It makes no linear sense. There's a lot of good luck, a lot of completely random chance, and a lot of hard work. And you know the expression, visions come to prepared spirits. I think I was just everything I could to prepare, and got really lucky. I thank my lucky stars every single day.